Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast whose Pornhub search history includes the words Vanni Sartini. I'm Travis Helwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa.
And I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our preview episode of LAFC's playoff series against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Who else? Starting on Sunday, October 27th at 6:45 p.m. at BMO Stadium. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV and FS1 for free, and you can watch our live post-game call-in show 10 minutes after the final whistle, which is always free, at youtube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot.
Later in the show, we'll fill out our brackets for a pool that you can join for the playoffs along with us, and of course, we'll cover all the storylines for this series, and we'll make some bets. But first, it's time for listener-mandated banter, housekeeping edition. This is a surprise to me. Darren, what are we doing?
That's right, Travis. It's the Wet Jet listener-mandated banter housekeeping edition presented by Swiffer, and I'm here to mop up some pesky little reminders off the floor.
We got a sponsor.
Because dirty feet are sad feet and clean feet are happy feet. Make sure you keep your feet happy all playoffs long and beyond with Swiffer Wet Jet. The pole is purple and the jet is wet.
Whoa.
First of all...
Yeah, don't interrupt him, Travis. He's on a roll.
It may not feel like it yet, but winter is coming, and that means last call for two things. One... our Friends of the Foot exclusive Half-O Sappho 2024 limited edition scarves, which have dwindled but not yet down to zero. I think there's like 2 left, maybe? I don't know. It's close.
If you want one, get it.
This is pretty much your last chance. You can become a Friend of the Foot at patreon.com/HappyFootSadFoot, where you'll also get your exclusive 15% discount on all merch, exclusive content, Discord access, and more. And number 2.
Just quickly, those scarves, even if we don't sell them, you're not going to be able to buy them next year. So if you want them, now's the time.
Burning them.
And there is one more way to get one, which we'll cover later. Number 2 are Half-O Sappho holiday sweaters. Order them now and get them in time for the holidays. These are all available to friends and enemies of the foot alike. And you can get these, the scarf, and a whole lot more at happyfootsadfootpod.com, where the pod is purple and the jet is wet. That's www.wetjet.com. These are all ways to help support us as we try to take what we do to the next level and make more great stuff beyond just the previews and post games and playoffs during the offseason and beyond. Well, that's enough banter, Travis. Let's start the show.
Wow. Is it
wet?
Is it fair to say that like nothing made you happier, Darren, than reading like an administrative like breakdown of house cleaning? You really delivered that.
It was a lot more fun to write than to deliver.
I was fun for us to hear. I was kind of just
giggling to myself in Google Docs. That's fun.
I kind of feel like maybe we should put housekeeping up top because the whole show's banter now. We should move housekeeping from the bottom to the top. And we don't need to have a banter area because the show is mostly that at this point.
Yeah. I think that's great. Thank you so much to our sponsors who hopefully won't be mad at us for completely making the whole thing up.
I use a Swiffer.
I want everyone to know that Swiffer condones everything we say during the show. The good people at Swiffer agree with every statement we're making.
They've also seen our voting records.
For what?
Do you know you could look up people's voting records, like not who they vote for, but if they voted? There's a website where you can find out which of your friends have voted, which I think is really interesting.
I guess I never really considered that I have any friends.
I've just found a constitutional lawsuit that I'd like to bring, and I would like not, just support me in this, people.
That shit's public record, baby.
Nope, not anymore. I did that in my home via mail.
I voted in my home and I threw my ballot in the trash. Should we start the show?
We can actually banter if you want.
On that high point, let's start the show.
No, let's start the show. What the fuck are we going to talk about? Let's talk about LAFC.
All right. Well, as a recovering casual fan of LAFC and current insane person, I don't miss a match, but keeping up with the matches alone has already made everything else I used to have going for me in life slowly fall apart. So I can't even begin to have time for all the off-the-pitch drama, roster moves, playoff rules, tactics, rumors, and conspiracy theories between matches, too. Luckily, my friends, Travis the Human LAFC Crazy Wall and Vince Soccerhead on the inside, are here every week to push me further into the LAFC abyss and catch me up on the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of every match so we can all enjoy them so much more in the first 2024 playoffs edition of a segment we call Storylines.
What is happening? Oh no. I hope he keeps it on during the whole thing. Is he gonna throw a cake at us, do you think?
Storylines.
I forgot how long this is.
Oh yeah, right. It's an hour.
Storylines. Storylines. These are the motherfucking storylines. These are the motherfucking storylines. These are the motherfucking storylines.
Playoffs, bitch. How do I turn the strobe off?
Do we have to put a disclaimer now in our YouTube video?
Yeah,
Flashing lights?
I have to turn all my lights back on now. I wanted that to be as LMFAO as humanly possible.
I mean, please leave the glasses on.
I think you did a good job.
They're really disorienting.
Are they?
1 second as I plug in my final light.
The final light sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, this is quite the encore.
I hit my head twice trying to unplug the lights
Yeah.
while the song was going. All right, I'm turning this fucking off.
Are those just regular glasses that happen to have LED lights on them?
Fuck. Darren,
Leave all of that in. All of that in.
I genuinely think you need to.
It
What a
is
struggle it remains to be. My
the
chair is now
best
on.
physical comedy I've seen since Mr. Bean. This
We
is
gotta
incredible.
come up with we got to come up with a tragic acoustic version of Storylines to play softly in the background for that part.
Darren, Vince, Dince, it is time. The playoff edition of Storylines is officially here, and I want to thank the good folks at the factory in China that made that beautiful light behind me that overheats like crazy every time I use it.
Oh,
If
don't
my
get it
house
close to the
burns down,
tapestry.
sue the company that made Party Light. There are, at most, 6 games left of LAFC in 2024. And outside of the first round, any loss will be our final game of the season. And remember, no ties. We have had an incredible season as LAFC fans, ending the season first in the West, earning our very first U.S. Open Cup trophy, the most important trophy in U.S. soccer history. And we even got to defeat the Galaxy at the Rose Bowl before waiting in 2 hours of traffic to leave. We saw the dominance of Dedi Bouanga. We saw the emergence of Matty Bogusz. We saw the renaissance of Kai Kamara. We saw the re-signing of Carlos Vela. And of course, we saw countless incredible goals from our club legend, Olivier Giroud. And all of that
Yikes.
brings us to our first and most important storyline of the playoffs, which is this. Can we win MLS Cup for the second time in 3 years? It feels just like yesterday that Gareth Bale dunked on the poorly dressed coaching staff of the Philadelphia Union and won us our first MLS Cup.
Shots
And
fired.
it feels even more recent that we traveled on Spirit Airlines to go to Columbus, Ohio, and watch our boys get absolutely trounced by the Columbus Crew before traveling home with the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. And in a series of ups and downs of Dolo outs and Dolos in, I am curious how you are both honestly feeling about our chances for MLS Cup. And before you answer, the current DraftKings rankings have us third best. Can you guess the 2 teams in front of us?
Miami.
Real Madrid. And
You mean in the world, right?
The one Darren said.
Inter
and-
Miami.
And the other team that claims to wear black and gold.
Darren, do you agree?
I feel like you wouldn't bring this up unless it was surprisingly
The
not
favorites
Columbus.
are Inter Miami at plus 160. Second best odds are the LA Galaxy at plus 350.
Trying to
We
get
are
some
then tied
betting
with the
action
Columbus
there.
Crew at plus 650. Everyone else has super long odds. Those are the 4 teams that Vegas thinks could win MLS Cup. Vince, how are you feeling about our chances this year at winning our second MLS Cup in just 3 seasons?
I don't want to gloat, but can I say I just feel the same way I felt all year? Have I not been here even when we started the season pretty poorly and said that I'm looking at this team top to bottom, pre-Olivier Giroud, and saying this is probably the most talented team in the West. So in
That's
that
true.
regard, I feel like they should at least, and people get excited about this, like the minimum is reaching MLS Cup. It will be a serious disappointment not to, because they have the top seat. They will be at home through the entire playoffs in the most important games. And as I said, I think that they have the most talent. Now, barring some kind of catastrophic injury, LAFC should be in the final. And then once you reach a final, I do think that having to travel to Miami or Columbus is not an easy task, and I will not underplay that. But it is one game, and LAFC is different than they were last year. I think at times have played more complete soccer. I would say that they have a better chance than more than half the field to win the playoffs, which is, speaking for just a small minority, that's pretty good. But I guess that's where I hedged my bets, and people are like, Vince, you coward, you weren't willing to say it and come out. But I mean, this is a very good team. Like,
I think you bring up a good point too. Like, this isn't the same team as last year, right? Like, yes, we lost in League's Cup, but in that finals, we did look pretty good after the first 20 minutes, right? We looked like a better team than we did in the final last season. Darren, how are you feeling about our chances at MLS Cup?
I'm feeling good. Vince definitely called it from the beginning. I believe your exact words were they're definitely the best team in the West by about the 5th tiebreaker. So you called that
Second.
right down to that. No, to be honest, Vancouver scared me a little bit last night. It was hard to tell because
I hope we're going
Portland
to talk
played
about
probably
that.
the worst
We will,
game
we
I've
will.
ever seen.
Okay. I
Which
want to
is
talk
kind of
about
insane. If it wasn't a 3-game series, I would be like slightly worried. I think there's some really fun matchups. We'll get to it when we do our brackets. There's some really fun matchups. I want Galaxy to make it to us. I would just want to beat the Galaxy in the playoffs so fucking bad. I'm excited. I like every game that I see on this bracket is like, hell yeah, let's do it.
I couldn't disagree more. I want the Galaxy to lose in 2 games in the first round. I want nothing to do with them. I do not need that stretch. Like, I know that people are like, we want to go through the best teams or whatever. It's like, no, I fucking don't. I want the easiest path to win. Why would we want to play the teams that could beat us? Let's play the teams we know we're better than. But this discussion brings us to the second storyline of this series, which is this.
Who will win our bracket
finishing,
pool? No, sorry.
Did finishing first in the West actually give us a harder path to the title than if we finished in second? While it is true, we now get to host all games at least until MLS Cup, we noticed something about the final seeding when it came out that night. First up, we have a full-strength Vancouver team that would do anything to beat us. They really have a chip on their shoulder about us, followed by probably the toughest matchup of the whole Western Conference starting, which is Houston versus Seattle. Both of those teams will be incredibly difficult to play. Both of those teams have beaten us in the past. Houston especially tends to have our number. Meanwhile, the Galaxy, who are second, get a Colorado team whose star player just went down, seemingly very injured. I didn't look at any follow-ups, but I can't imagine he's back. Maybe you know, Vince. Followed by a Real Salt Lake and a Minnesota matchup that just feels like 2 teams destined to lose in the second round, like the most mid-table teams I could imagine. And most likely, we're then going to have to face the Galaxy in the West. I do think, team-wise, we might face a more difficult schedule. Now, I think we are lucky Vancouver beat Portland. We can get into it when I ask about Vancouver later. But I'm curious if you guys think home field advantage was worth it to face a slightly more difficult group of teams. And do you even agree with the premise?
Yeah, no, I agree with it from this respect. In what you're saying, and you can take the collection of teams on that bracket side and say that those are all stronger teams. However, we'll only have to face one at a time, right? So as much as Seattle...
It would be awful if we'd have to face multiple.
I know.
Yeah, that would suck. That would be so hard.
Let's do multiple ball,
22
like
to
3 goal soccer. But no, like what I'm saying is like that group seems to be stronger, and that goes back to kind of MLS and how like good teams can kind of limp into the playoffs or drop off if they have a really good start, or even come on in terms of like Seattle, we thought weren't going to be anywhere near the playoffs, and now they're like up to an area where they could have been as high as third. They obviously dropped down a little lower than that. They're disappointed, but they're still a solid team. But I think RSL, and I've been kind of off them all season. I'm like, they're going to drop off. They're going to drop off. They did a little bit. Obviously, they were top of the West for a while. I think they're a much better team. They would still have to travel to Galaxy, but you'd say if you were LAFC, like, I don't really want to play RSL, and assuming that they're the one that's going to win. So, like I said, in that regard, you only play one team. I think RSL, Seattle, Houston. Sorry, Minnesota. I just don't rate you at all. But any of those three are going to be difficult at this time of year. So I don't put too much credence into that. So I'm not saying the premise is wrong, but I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, you play one team. It's going to be a tough team as you get out of the first round regardless.
I think Colorado could have been a better matchup for the Galaxy, but it seems like they got a lot weaker with that injury. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, injury to what have we said about the playoffs and why, and I know we're going to get to Portland, but why Portland kind of scared me was like their top end talent, their star talent, which your best players have to be your best players in these moments, especially when it comes to close to goal, are what's going to carry you through the playoffs. And I think losing your best player right before playing the Galaxy, regardless of the fact that you have some kind of a home field advantage in Colorado, is just, it's pretty devastating. And I think beyond that, that is one thing that will get in the psyche of some players. Like, that was our guy. That's a guy we're going to count on. Now he's not there. And I know they're all going to say, like, next man up, and that'll bode them well if they do get through something. But there's no chance that they're not actually feeling like, oh, this is kind of a bummer. It would be nice to be full strength against the Galaxy.
Darren, how are you feeling about now that we have first in the West? Do you think having home is more important than playing the easier teams?
I mean, home field advantage, I suppose you could argue that we would have home field advantage until the conference finals in the other route also. But it all becomes a moot point once you just go to the Western Conference Finals and you say, who are we facing? Do you want to be a home or away? And it's like, who cares what the path was to get there? We should be able to beat all of these teams. And if we can't, then we shouldn't beat them and we should be out regardless. Like,
I think that's a really good point, right? The real benefit to this is home field against the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Carson is not a place where we play well, and playing the Galaxy at home, we have a much better record, right? It just, like, historically, we do better at home against everyone, but especially against the Galaxy, who tend to, regardless of how good they are, always put on their best showing of the season against us, and they especially do it at home. Obviously, we all have PTSD from the last time we played them in Carson, which I actually do think we've talked about it a little bit. I think it's good they punched us in the mouth. Like, if we went into the playoffs having beaten them 3 times, we would definitely underestimate how talented they are. I agree we're a better team, but they are very fun to watch. They are sloppy at times, but they're very good at coming back.
I mean, I'll say this. I agree with you, Travis. I don't think that Colorado is going to be a problem for them, but I'll be watching them closely because psychologically, to lose the top spot the way they did to who they lost it to is interesting. I'm not going to say it's a thing. Like, let's just keep an eye on it. But if, let's say, the Galaxy struggle in this first round, and maybe they pull it out and then they become stronger for it, right? But we can't definitively say it didn't affect them if they don't struggle a little bit against Colorado.
Yeah, I wonder if they go down late in one of the games, right? Do they go like, oh, here we go again? Like, that sort of like emotional LAFC can't win in championship, sort of like, once that narrative gets in your head, it's hard to break out of it. But that's all putting the cart before the horse, because we have a best of 3 first round series this weekend, a format we all love and think is good and is not a cash grab, thanks to the good people at Swiffer WetJet, against, of course, the Vancouver Whitecaps. And that brings us to our final storyline of the week, which is this: just which Vancouver are we getting? Over time, we are hard-pressed to find a team we dominate more thoroughly than the Vancouver Whitecaps. In 20 games, we have beaten them 10 times, drawn 5 times, and lost 5 times. That's a very good record. We have also won our last 5 games against them, including in penalties in League's Cup. So we've faced them in penalties. We know what that's like. Our last loss against Vancouver was in June of 2023, over a year and a half ago. We are also going into the playoffs in our best form of the season, having won our last 6 games, including 1 game against Vancouver. Conversely, Vancouver has been playing like Vanni Sartini has his mouth full. After starting the season hot, they have plummeted down the standings and were winless in their last 8 games until This past Wednesday, they were forced to travel to Portland for a game that was supposed to be a home game for them, but they had set up a motocross event, not assuming that they would have to be in the play-in. And so they couldn't use their own stadium because of vroom vroom motorcycles. And they had to play their home game in Portland. And that somehow, with their backs against the wall and Vanni Sartini's knees on the ground, made the Whitecaps have their biggest win in club history, or one of their biggest wins in club history, 5-0 against a very talented Portland team. I need to know, first of all, what the fuck happened? And second of all, which Vancouver team are we going to get? Is that the new norm now that they're at their full strength? Or is that an outlier in a string of very bad games for a bad team?
Well, the ultimate playoff disclaimer is when you play against teams with talent, you need to be sharp in both boxes. Vancouver, regardless of their ranking, has players that can finish chances, like Ryan Gauld, who was incredible in that game, hat trick, plus an assist. Brian White is a nuisance. Stuart Armstrong looked a little bit better. That's your general disclaimer. Like, you got to deal with the team's top talent. But in that game, I have never laughed so hard at some of the goals that were scored. There were moments in which actually almost every single goal was about 3 Vancouver guys in the box and 6 Portland Timbers looking like Keystone Cops, just running from one side of the field to the other, not realizing that if like a couple of them stood still, they might cover the other 2 guys from the opposite team. It's some of the worst box defending I think I've ever seen, especially in a cup knockout game. I do not foresee LAFC playing that way, although I guess there's a chance that like they could all end up like chickens with their heads cut off at certain moments. But this Portland team, or this Vancouver team, should I say, is a team that wants to still turn you over in midfield. They're a little bit soft in their through the middle, and their defense is maybe not the best. Their goalkeeper's pretty good, is a plus, but they're not going to press you. They're going to sit back a little bit. They're going to make you make your own mistakes. And if you're dumb enough to play into the traps, then they get the ball out wide to Ryan Gauld or to Stuart Armstrong, and they cross the ball into Brian White, who makes a nuisance, and that's why they can play with 3 guys in the box. I just don't foresee LAFC not understanding that, having played them so much. I think Steve Cherundolo always has a good game plan for them. So the caveats are, look, just don't get outworked by Portland or by Vancouver, and don't be stupid. But yeah, the game was, I honestly, I saw 5-0 and I was like, oh my God, I should have watched this game maybe. And then I went back and I did like skim through it, and I was like, I'm telling you, I was hysterical just watching this and being like, what is happening here? This is not what I would expect from a game that's supposed to be pretty, I guess, cagey. Portland just did not show up defensively.
I thought it was like that, like volley goal, maybe the second goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was like at practice. He was like, here, let's play with this ball.
Yeah.
Not the other balls.
It felt like that goal specifically felt like an older brother fucking with their younger brother, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop this, huh?
Oh, you're
Darren,
too short.
I know you said you got a little nervous watching that game. Will it make you feel any better that there's no extra time, so there's no room for errors? So if we're tied, we go straight to PKs, which is historically very random. Does that make you feel any less anxious? I also do want to say, a little birdie told me, this isn't confirmed, that Jesus Murillo is closer to coming back than he ever has. I don't know if he's back this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's back this week. So just know he's close. Jesus Murillo is close. So how are you feeling about this matchup here?
Well,
and do you think Vanni Sartini will suck Steve Cherundolo's dick?
Always an important question. On the latter, I would say no. I think he's going to try to keep it profesh.
He did it last playoffs when we knocked him out.
That's true.
So behind closed doors then.
Pretended. Allegedly pretended. The Swiffer's making us say
allegedly pretended.
Us casuals always love no ties. I'll say that.
Just saying us casuals. I love it.
So the thing that I'm worried about is that I think that they did, at the end of the last time we played them, they did seem to figure us out. I think they had this kind of aha moment where they were like, oh, this is how you beat LAFC. And then we were like, well, maybe if you do this for 90 minutes next time, you'll have a shot at it. And
win fouls and get own goals for 90 minutes?
What's that?
win fouls and get own goals for 90 minutes?
Well, yeah.
Sorry, that's just my
figured out-
pushback when like people say like we got figured out. Again,
I
what
don't
does
think we
that
got figured
actually
out
mean?
in a way like within the circumstances. Like they figured out there are weak spots that we've been talking about all season. Like if we don't get the first goal, we're put in a different situation. We're playing as a different team.
Mhm.
People have capitalized on our defense making silly mistakes here and there. There are like little things that it's like they've seen us enough now that
Sure.
if we make the mistakes at the same time that they capitalize on those mistakes, then like it could be a little scary.
Okay, one
Over the
follow-up, and
course
I'm
of 3
not
games, though, no.
Darren, one follow-up, and I swear I'm
Yeah.
not picking on you. I'm just picking on us casuals because in general, this is what a lot of people say. And I think everything that you just said is factually accurate, like all the weaknesses. But like if we know that and everyone else knows that, is that figuring out LAFC or is that just like every team has a weakness and a strength? This is, again,
It's
the only
both.
pushback
It's
I have
both.
on people is when they say like figured out, like as if they're like dunked on them.
Well,
And I'm
it's a
like,
confidence
no.
I
thing,
don't.
right?
No, I don't mean it like that at all. I
Okay.
mean like, yeah, every team has a weakness and a strength,
Yeah.
and if we don't shore ourselves up and if we don't execute, then we're not going to get away with it. Like I think
Mhm.
maybe we used to in past games against
Right.
this team.
I guess just what
I-
I'm saying is when people say like we're figured out, they use it as a curmudgeon to say like Steve should be fired, as if
Mhm.
like teams
And
don't
Darren wants
scout
that.
other. Yeah, always. As if teams don't scout teams, like as if that's some kind of thing like to be ashamed of. Like teams know how to play other teams. Now, whether you can pull it
Yeah.
off is a different level, and whether you exploit it in like a novel way is a different level. I just don't think that happens most times against LAFC.
I think
Right. I just think
think-
they're in a better position in that sense
Sure.
this game than ever before with us.
And like I said, I'm not trying to pick on you because, like, honestly, you literally
Pick on
just
me
laid
if you
bare
want.
all of LAFC's weaknesses, which for a casual is like pretty impressive. Like,
yeah.
are you?
Also, what if
An
Vanny Sartini
advanced
listens?
Yeah, are you an advanced scout for Vancouver? Are you?
I don't know. He'll never know. I'm
He's
very
willing
mysterious.
he's willing to try anything at this point.
I guess so.
I do think there's something to be said about what this game means for them compared to us. I think going into this game, we're like, well, we always beat Vancouver, right? There's a way that you could come in flat-footed against a team that you're overconfident against that just played really. It's good that they just played that well, right? So we
Sure.
could be reminded that they could play
Yeah.
games like that. But like, you can just feel how much Vancouver wants to beat us. And I said I would pick Vancouver as our opponent if I got a choice. I should stick by
Me too.
that. But having watched that 5-0 game and remembering how scary that game was we just played against them, I'm not as not nervous as I thought I would be going up against them. But that said, I'd rather
a good
play
way to
them
put it.
than Houston. I'd rather play them than Portland. It is just they want to beat us so bad, and I have a feeling this goes to 3 games because of that. Right? They need a win against us, or their spirits will be broken. And hopefully, we're strong enough and talented enough that we don't let that happen. But I do think that they are good enough that they can will themselves to a game in a best of 3 series.
Well, and not only did MLS set up this format with 3 games, hoping for 3 games, but then they also goosed it a little bit by saying, hey, there's no extra time. And to your point, Travis, they're like, hey, let's randomize it. Let's make it happen so that maybe we have that little bit more wiggle room to get in. Because I think that anytime, if LAFC, especially against a lower seed, regardless of how well Vancouver plays and pushes them, we've seen the ability to bring extra guys off the bench and that little extra level they can click into and grind teams down. It's like a team can hang with us for 90 minutes, but then you give them an extra 30 and we're going to finally like show, and that's not on the table at all. Like,
and if
that is just not going to
we're
happen.
the most talented team, right? We should fear PKs
Yes.
until we're playing a team that we're worse than, which I can only think of 2 in the league. Then we should be petrified of PKs because anything can fucking happen. And so there is just a lot of randomness in the playoffs. I think that's why the supporter shield has come to mean more to people over time. Obviously MLS Cup is the one everyone wants, but people care about the supporter shield a lot, and they should. But just a reminder, let's stay the fuck out of PKs if we can. Those are the storylines for our first round series against Vancouver. When we come back, we're going to pick our brackets for the MLS Cup playoffs.
And And we're back. Let's do some brackets.
Thanks to the good people at Swiffer Wetjet for those commercials.
The jet is wet.
The jet is wet. The pod is purple and the jet is wet.
First of all, we never formally crowned the champion of our League's Cup bracket, unless I'm just forgetting that we did.
I mean, you're housekeeping man. So if you're saying we didn't, then we didn't.
This is like when you admit at work that you're able to do something, and then it's like from then on, it's like, oh, we don't need to hire someone. Let's just make this guy do it. He said he could do it.
There's a meme about that, but anytime someone like explains a meme, it doesn't work. But there is one. I want to say there is one.
Okay, thank you. I'll look it up. Excited to Google a meme later.
Yeah. Google work meme hard.
And good luck.
Okay. Our winner of the League's Cup bracket with 1,225 points was Matt S678. Matt, we owe you a scarf or some sort of alternative if you already have one and don't want another. We do have a few Matts in the Patreon, so Matt, please show yourself. And congratulations.
Yay.
You beat Vince.
No
one thought it was possible.
No, you didn't.
No, Vince came in first. We put Matt up there.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Vince came in first.
Yeah.
Well, you beat
then-
Vince by a technicality, which is all it's going to
Yeah,
By
I
goal
can't.
differential.
I have the scarf's right here. I already have
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's true. You got your scarf.
So I've decided
And
to
we can cover the
bestow
scarf.
that. Yeah.
How do you want to do this?
Congratulations, Vince.
Congratulations, Vince. Matt S., you suck.
Okay, so let's each go through our brackets one at a time. If you are a Patreon, if you are a friend of the foot, we will put the link in the show notes for you to join the bracket with us, and you can participate.
We're linking the Patreon, right? We can't put it in the show notes because then everyone will see it.
We will put it in the show notes of the
grubby little
Patreon only
free-
feed of the podcast, Travis.
There you go.
Those little trolls who don't pay us. I don't want them to play. Those little grubby trolls.
Oh no!
And just a little tip, if you really want to play, you can just join the Patreon and play and then leave the Patreon. It's fine. We don't care.
But we'll take your $5.
Yeah, we'll take
Yeah.
your $5. Why not? We each want $1.30. What is it?
Yeah.
How
Do you think
math?
this light from China pays for itself?
No.
You think-
Yeah, we're gonna have to pay Travis back for that.
It really is a piece of shit. All right. What order do you want to go in?
Vince, you set the gold standard first.
Oh, okay.
Or do you want to stall?
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll just do it live. We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
I'll start on the East Coast, and I'll just start
Please.
from the top. Miami, Atlanta. That's an easy slam dunk. That's going to be Miami. Orlando, Charlotte. I think Orlando is the better team, although I think Charlotte's manager, in the style that he plays and like being in a lot of cup games in England, I'm going to go with an upset there. I'm going to go Charlotte.
Whoa.
Cincy, NYCFC. Cincy had a major blip, but I think that they're a much better team now. I like the way that they played against LAFC, whereas NYCFC is super inconsistent. Could I see them beating Cincy? Yes, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then Columbus is beating the Red Bulls. Don't even care about that. LAFC, Vancouver. I'm going to go with LAFC. As we've said, I just don't see a world in which they play as poorly defensively and in their own box. And Vancouver just they don't really have a great style to match up with us. I think they can push us because they'll work hard, but I don't think that they have the talent and or the style to really best LAFC. Seattle, Houston. I'm going to go Houston, although I think Seattle, that's going to be pretty close. RSL, Minnesota. I think RSL is better than Minnesota. That's a pretty easy one. I would love to get cute with Galaxy, Colorado, but anytime I try to get cute with things like that, it goes very wrong. So like Galaxy are going through. I just think injuries for Colorado, it's too tough. Okay, back to the East, Cincy, Columbus.
Hell's Real is fun. That's a fun.
It is fun. This is like a toss-up, right? This would be like if LAFC it reaches a contest against the Galaxy. I think Cincy's been hurt mostly in their defensive line, and at the end of the day, Columbus will take advantage of that. Again, Miami just getting through because they don't lose games. I don't understand Miami. I'm just gonna go with it.
Wait, it's really interesting how the first round matchup between NYCFC and Cincinnati ends up deciding a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The domino effect of that matchup is really kind of crazy Because depending on what happens there, you have hell is real. Depending on what happens there, you have a team that may or may not be able to upset Miami. I don't know. That's interesting. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I can't see. Well, you can't see many teams beating Columbus, but hell is real. Cincinnati plays well, right? I mean, they both
Yeah.
teams do, but it is when it's a real rivalry game, anything can fucking happen.
It puts something else in play that's interesting. I don't fear Houston as much as a lot of people do. I do think that they're a good team, but I think in terms of the style that they play, it just plays into LAFC's hands. I think Ponce is a little bit of is a serious level up for them. And that is the difference between them playing LAFC in the Western Conference final last year and them actually beating LAFC this year. But I think when it comes to playoffs, LAFC is will reach another level.
I want you to know, because you said that Houston matches up well against us, that the dorks over at Extra Time like to say that Houston, maybe it's not Extra Time. I've heard pundits say this, that Houston
No, there's
is
only
the
dorks at Extra Time, so that's who it is.
that Columbus or Houston is the Columbus of the East or the West. They play in a similar style to Columbus. Do you agree with that?
If you squint really hard.
It's like they play beautiful
if you're really
soccer,
drunk,
according
or if
to
you're like
Andrew
them on the
Lee.
East Coast, if you're fully asleep.
Their soccer's fun, but at the end of the day, you got to win games. Like, no one fucking cares at this point, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was an anomaly that Columbus played in the way that they did and actually won it, and that I will give them more credit for because it is pleasing on the eye. But had they lost, who fucking cares? Like, let's be honest. And again, I love the Extra Time guys, but they get a little wrapped up in being like, it's beautiful soccer. It is. But at the end of the day, teams got to win games.
I'm so tired of all the MLS journalists only knowing a lot about the East Coast teams and favoring the East Coast teams. I know that Columbus and Miami are the best teams. I agree with them. But when you listen to those shows, it's very clear that they've just watched the clips. They went to bed and they watched the clips from the West Coast game.
And it's much easier to pick out flaws, I think, from teams you don't like the way they play.
Yes.
Sure.
You know, like if you don't like the way LAFC plays, you can be like, they're not that good. Okay, but they're brutally efficient. So I get it. Again, I don't want to get too cute. I think RSL could give LA the Galaxy problems, but it's going to be at StubHub, and I don't see them losing there.
So your final four are the final four that I think most people are guessing, right? That's what Vegas is guessing.
Probably.
LAFC, Galaxy.
Yeah, my final four is definitely, I guess my only upset so far is having Charlotte go through. So I don't think these playoffs have starting to go the way of the best teams are getting through. And I think that's maybe not good for storylines for MLS, but good for MLS in general. Like the best teams need to be playing in the best games. Okay. Miami.
So you have Miami Columbus?
Miami Columbus, and I have LAFC Galaxy. And so for that, it's going to be in Miami. See, that's the thing. And then it's just messy. Like I've seen him do so many things, like incredible things with Miami, everywhere else he's ever gone. I mean, he just scored a hat trick for Argentina. Like the guy's he's incredible.
And then scored a hat trick for Miami, I think 4 days later.
Yeah. It must be nice to be so confident and good at something. Okay.
It's supposed to be you with bracketology, Vince.
Yeah, I've said it all year. I still believe LAFC. And then, you know what? I don't think this is a popular opinion, but fuck it. I want to see LAFC win. So I'm just going to go there, and that'll make me happy. LAFC beats Miami.
In Miami. What a fun game that would be.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys go there and don't get COVID.
You're not coming to Miami?
Do you know how much tickets are going to cost? On a podcaster's salary?
Also, we're in Miami, and I'm pretty sure the cocaine will block the COVID from getting into the nostrils. So
well, in that case, I'm in. But just for that part, I won't go to the game.
Yeah, no, you're just doing cocaine in Long Beach.
Yeah.
All right, Darren, you want me to go or you want to go?
Go ahead.
All right, I'll start on the East just so we go together. So I have Miami beating Atlanta. Obviously, this website is so good. I've already made my picks. I also picked Charlotte to beat Orlando. So that is a similar upset. But I have, in a fluke, NYCFC beating Cincinnati. I have Cincinnati going down in the first round to NYCFC.
I have that too.
Okay, that's a bigger upset.
Yes. And Columbus beating the Red Bull. In the West, we beat Vancouver. I also have Houston beating Seattle. I think Seattle's been a little bit inconsistent this year. I know they've played really great lately. I think Houston just from the eye test is a better team. When I've watched all these teams play, I'm more scared of Houston. I have Minnesota beating RSL just because I feel like both of those teams
Interesting.
could flop at any point. I know that you hate Minnesota, but I'm also trying to
Mm-hmm.
win a bracket, and you have to make weird choices when you're trying to win a bracket thing.
Sure.
And I have the Galaxy beating Colorado. Next round, East, we're going chalk. Miami, Columbus, those are going to be the two teams. I don't think it's going to be close.
Especially when you have NYCFC already making the upset, then
Yes.
it just makes the path that much easier, I think.
Yep. And so, yeah, Miami will dominate Charlotte. Columbus will dominate New York. LAFC versus Houston, scared of the matchup. I have us going through. Galaxy, easy against Minnesota in Carson. Same Final Four as you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this, Vince. And when this happens in brackets, you got to make choices that no one else will make. You got to make choices that
Make
no
the
one
hard
else
choices.
will make.
Yep.
You got to make. This isn't what I want to happen, but I'm trying to win a bracket, guys.
Derek, cut all this stuff out and go straight to his pick.
I have, and I also have Miami winning. So where am I going to break with the rest of our fans? I have the Galaxy beating LAFC in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh my
in
God.
BMO to go to Miami. Well, they will lose to Miami. This is not what I want to happen, but it is the only way that I know I will be able to differentiate myself in the Final Four from a bunch of superstitious motherfuckers who I know all picked the same Final Four. So the Galaxy move on, lose to Miami, and Miami wins in the final.
Wow.
I know
You
it's
wanna-
bad juju, but I want to win this fucking
You want
bracket.
to win our bracket that bad.
Yeah.
That you
Would
would
you
do
would
that.
you want to win
Well,
if it cost LAFC?
You were
the
no longer
cup?
allowed to go to BMO Stadium.
I'm not going to be rooting for us. I think
Yeah, but don't
What
show your
we're-
face.
Here is why I feel when looking at this, I was like, everyone's picking the same Final Four. What is the one choice I can make that other people will not make? And I don't think anyone else will feel comfortable doing that.
I hope
because
you
they'll
don't.
get beat up. I feel less comfortable than I did moments ago from how you guys reacted to it.
Well, we're obligated to react that way.
Right. As much as you feel like you have to hedge on one side, we have to then be tough on the other side. We have to do this because we fear for our safety.
Yeah, I'm going to get my cooler smashed at the tailgate. Darren, you pick your pick.
Okay, let's see what's different here. I have LAFC beating Vancouver. I have Seattle beating Houston, which I believe I'm the
that's-
only one to
Yep,
have.
you're the only one.
I think that's a hard-fought victory. I think they go into playing LAFC with false confidence that they think, well, we've been waiting our whole lives to finally beat LAFC. It's just not going to happen.
That is the ultimate funniest thing that could happen.
Yeah, I think they're just. You would think that they would just put so much focus and effort into finally figuring out how to do it. They don't have the resources. RSL beats Minnesota. Galaxy beats Colorado. Galaxy beats RSL. I have Miami beating Atlanta. I have Orlando beating Charlotte. Miami Orlando is a fun matchup if Orlando shows up.
Oh yeah, we could have Miami, Orlando, and Hell is Real in the same.
Could be
and
two
El
rivalries
Trafico.
happening.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, that would be
And
fun.
Atlanta, Miami is sort of a rivalry too.
Yes.
That was a genuine rivalry before Messi showed up and
Yeah.
Atlanta got terrible, right?
So that'll be fun too. Mercedes-Benz is such a big fucking stadium that I bet they'll be able to fill the whole thing for Messi too, because they have to play a game in Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
That'll be really fun.
They put like 50K
but
in
how many
there.
of those
They
fans
put
will
like
be Messi
50,000
fans,
people.
though?
Yeah.
That's the
That's the
fear.
thing. This is the only time where it might not be. They're putting like 40, 50,000 Atlanta fans in there on other games.
Yeah, but those Messi fans, though,
You
they'll
can't
show
get
up,
away from
For
them.
sure. They'll be the ones to fill it. But that'll be an awesome game. That one
Sure.
game.
That's Friday, right? That's tomorrow.
I think, yeah. I
Well,
think so.
Well, not the
That'd be
one
yeah.
in Atlanta, but
The
yeah,
Atlanta
yeah.
isn't.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, that'll be fun. Anyway, they'll lose.
good. Messi cam.
Yeah, Messi cam. So I have Columbus beating Red Bull, and I have NYCFC upsetting Cincinnati.
Oh,
They've done it before. They can do it again.
okay.
Also, I think NYCFC has. I agree they've been streaky this season from the highlights I've watched, but they look really good when they're good.
And
They're
their kits are great.
talented. They're so inconsistent.
Yeah. Columbus plows through them. Here's a way you could have picked something different without picking the Galaxy. I have Columbus upsetting Miami. They have cakewalked, so healthy, not a care in the world, not a ding on them, not a scratch on them. They walk into Miami, who's just played their rivals, 2 rivals. They've barely gotten through at this point. And Columbus plays Miami. They play perfect Nancy ball.
How many hat
And
tricks
they
does
somehow
Messi
pull
have
it out in
before this game?
PKs. What?
How many hat tricks does Messi have before this game?
He'll have a hat trick in this game and they'll still lose.
Columbus has beaten Miami in important games, right? Like, didn't they
Columbus
knock
can
them out
do it.
last year? I know it wasn't
The point
as good
is-
of a team, but
I
I
actually
would
feel
love
like
to see.
This year, the first game that Messi missed, everyone was like, "Oh, they play Columbus. Like Columbus is going to kick the shit out of them." And Miami won, and that was when
Yeah.
everyone started to go, "Huh? Could Miami win games without Messi?" And then they
Yeah.
just
And they're
kept
like,
doing
"Yep."
it. Yeah, and we were like, "We should have learned. They can do it."
Yeah.
Darren, I thought about this upset. People are going to pick it. I'm just trying to go with
That's
what
fair.
things
Oh, sure.
people aren't going to
Look,
pick.
Well, once you're in the
Also, I just-
semifinals,
I-
like, none of this is wild. Like as much as we
Yes.
clowned you for saying Galaxy beats
No, yeah.
LAFC, like
Yes,
these
it's a
teams are
juju
so
thing.
evenly
That's
matched.
why it's a good rivalry. It's
If
anything
if
can
the
happen.
4 is Columbus, Miami, LAFC, Galaxy, those are above and beyond the 4 best teams in the league this
Yes.
season, and the teams that you would expect to reach a final.
If you told me midway through the season one of those 4 teams would win, I'd go, yes, of course. That like makes all the sense to me.
Mhm.
Sorry,
And-
go ahead, Darren.
I have to say that as much as it would be really insane to be able to somehow pull it out against Messi in Miami, I would be more excited to avenge the Columbus crew and win, which we
Is
will
that your
do.
pick?
Secretly,
pick.
Darren really wants to go to Columbus again.
It's an interesting
Didn't
question.
think about that
Darren.
part.
In the video that we made from that, which you can watch on our Instagram or TikTok, you say Columbus, Ohio, who I swear on my children's lives, a city I will never go back to as long as I live.
Whoa.
If we make it to MLS Cup final and you have sworn on your children's lives, will
Yeah.
you go back to Columbus once and for all? Give us an answer.
Hard pass.
I gotta sucker someone else to come to fucking Columbus with me again.
Why are you going?
Yeah.
I love that milk. That milk
Follow
shot
up
that we
question:
did.
why are you going?
Yeah, good point.
I could be convinced.
Well, those are our picks. I don't want the Galaxy to win. I don't think they will, but I picked them. When we come back, we're going to make some bets, different bets than this. And now some ads from the good people at Swiffer Wet Jet. The pod is purple and the wet is jet.
And we're back. Man,
Wow, that jet was wet.
I really thought that wet was especially jet that time. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week we all put up $5. If no one hits, the money rolls over into the next week. Eventually, by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. Our bet pool for this week is $30.
Huge cash.
Wow.
Huge
cash.
cash.
Wait,
It'll
are we
build up
betting?
quick in the playoffs.
Because we're not doing previews for every game. I know that
We're doing a preview for this series. You know what we should say?
This is the first
that
time we
the
said
bet pool-
this in this.
we should
in
do
this. We buried the
3
lead. People are pretty bummed right now and probably
I said up
turning
top
off.
it's the preview for the series.
I know, but they maybe thought, oh, well, they'll do previews for every game and we love them for it. And we love you for wanting us to do it, but we're not doing it. So is this a bet for
We'll be
just
doing
this game
post-game
or the
shows.
series?
Let's
I
say
think-
it's $5 per game bet for the series.
Okay. So
But-
we're bumping this now up what? $45? So it goes
Well,
up to
we don't.
So my bet
It's
gets possibly three chances.
Yeah,
unless it
exactly. Your
hits.
bet gets as many chances as there are games, and the $5 buy-in is as many times as there
so
are
it's
games.
so it's $15 each. So 30 plus 45 is what? 75.
Wait, plus 45? Why wouldn't it be?
Because it's
oh,
There's already 30.
each game is $5 and there's 3 of us. So it goes up to $75 the bet pool.
if there's 3 games.
Yeah.
Oh,
there may
right,
not
right,
be
right,
3
right.
games.
Right.
So it's either $60 or $75.
Correct.
We'll do the math when it happens.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
That was my
predict
answer
which
to
of us
like
can-
every single math class. I'll
And
do
if
it
you're
when it happens.
if you're watching in the comments, predict which of us can successfully complete one math problem before
Oh.
the others.
My head really hurts actually.
Okay.
I'm a doctor of journalism.
I think it's not outlandish enough to say Vanni Sartini will make news because he's been doing a great job of making news.
Agreed.
That's the one bet I cashed this year was Vanni Sartini will make news.
Yeah.
That quote about
Disavowed
Portland,
the belief in God.
Yeah. Portland's coach said God is a Timbers fan. And Vanni Sartini said, if God is a Timbers fan, then I have no God or something like that.
Yeah,
I think he said God can be a Timbers fan, but I don't think there is a God or
Yeah,
something.
he's like, but I don't think God
But God
exists.
doesn't exist for me.
Yeah.
God doesn't exist for me is how he said it, which is
The for
very
me
Vanni Sartini.
is hard. Like
Yeah.
saying God doesn't exist, you're like, okay, I can dismiss that guy. He's like, but for me. And you're like,
I
Such
love
a
Vanni
casual,
Sartini.
practical approach after the win.
yeah. Definitely something you talk about.
Okay, I have a bet that I'm very confident in over the course of the series. Is it outlandish enough to say Giroud 3 goals over the course of the series? Is that
That's
outlandish enough?
more goals than he had the entire regular season, and actually more goals than he had regular season plus cup games.
I think 3 goals is outlandish enough for the French national team's best goal scorer of all time.
3 or more, or
Well,
Yeah, 3 or
on
more.
recent form, I think that's fair.
Darren?
I'm going to try something that has not been attempted on
Wait,
Bet
but
It
you
and
need to say
Forget It.
if Travis's bet is fair.
Oh, you weren't saying Darren, what's your bet? You're saying Darren,
Yeah.
is that okay?
The only
Yes, do you
caveat
give
I
me
could do is
Yes.
it like you have to go like 3.5, or like
So
like
it has to be more than 3?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. How about an average of more than 1 per 90? Or is that less
Oh.
outlandish?
How
Well,
about
there
this?
can only be 90
Okay,
minutes.
I'll change it to this,
No, if
and
he
you
only
tell
plays
me if
5.
this is more or less outlandish. Between Giroud and Carlos Vela, they will have at least 4 goals. How's that?
That seems less outlandish.
No,
Look,
no, because I already tried to push him on the Druid thing. We know nothing about Carlos Vela. We know
Mhm.
nothing about him.
That's true.
I
So how's
love
that?
Carlos Vela.
Okay,
We know
I was going to
nothing
do
about
something
him.
cheeky
wait,
with
is
that.
that
That's-
okay?
That one's cool,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that one's good.
That
That
one's
one's
cool.
good.
Okay, so Carlos
Because
Vela, Olivier
literally,
Giroud,
you just
at
took
least
what I
4
said,
combined.
where I was like, it was like maybe you make it so he has to get more than 3, and you're like, okay, I'll give you one more guy, and I was like, yeah, but still that guy we don't know anything about, so I'll give you that. Like you did
Right.
it instead of 3.5, you gave me a Carlos Vela, which is pretty funny.
Yes. But it's between them, so it could be.
Yeah, of course.
Giroud could score 4.
Yeah,
Carlos Vela could
Sure.
score 4.
Carlos will score 4 in one game.
Great.
Okay, I want to do a competing duo. I'm going to say Bouanga and Madi will score at least 5. Is that fair?
That feels way more likely than mine, because we don't know if Vela's even going to play.
Okay, at least 5 with a minimum of 2 each. Still not good enough?
Vince, what do you think?
I'm negotiating.
Okay, wait. At least
How
5
about this?
between.
How about this? Bouanga, Bogusz, Kamara, and Oliveira
All of our
have at
goal
least
scorers.
hold on. All have at least 5 total and all score at least once.
Okay, that's pretty outlandish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, make it more than 5.
Really?
No, come on. If they all
All
have to
right.
score once.
It just feels like those are the people. If you were to say who are the 4 people you would guess to score a goal, those are the 4 I would guess.
Okay, fuck it. Hugo Lloris, 2 assists.
God damn it, Travis. You backed him into a corner, and this is what he does.
Now I want that bet to happen more than the other one.
I mean, okay, so which one are we're going on the Hugo Lloris?
You could do either, or Darren, whichever one you prefer.
I like the 3-game series is the only time I get a chance to do 2 assists over the course of
let's do
possible
that.
3 games.
Okay. I'll do one that like seems boring but could be pretty crazy. I will say that over the series there will be 6 set piece goals.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
I
That's
just
a
think
lot.
that set pieces
Amongst
become
both
more
teams.
Yeah, amongst both teams. So up to, if there's 3, then that would be 2 per game, which seems not so outlandish, but there might not be that many games. I just think set pieces become that much more pivotal in the playoffs.
PKs count as set pieces, like an
PKs
in-game PK?
In-game PKs do. The
Great
shootouts do
question.
not. Yes. Great question. And I think both these teams, especially LAFC, when they've been very good, have taken advantage of set pieces. And I think that Vancouver just in general is good at set pieces. Now, 6 is still a lot. So that's where I'm pushing it so that it doesn't seem too crazy. Like to say like I wonder what Vegas had a line on this. I don't think they do, but like I bet you in Europe when they have like series, you can bet on something like this. If I had to hazard a guess, their line would probably be 3.5. But I'm going to go all the way to 6 to really like push it. And it could happen. And I'm counting PKs too, so I'm not sure if they always count PKs in that instance.
Do you guys think there will be a red card shown in this series?
Ooh, they're very reticent to want to show red cards. And if they
I
do, it's always
don't
like
think a straight red, but I could see
reds.
It's going to be Vanni
Sartini
Sartini, actually. Vanni Sartini's going to get a red. That should have been my bet.
I think the game in Vancouver will be particularly wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I would have LAFC to win the game at home, and then I would have Vancouver to play much better in Vancouver, and LAFC still maybe to win that game, and that's when you know shit's about to get crazy.
The end of that game, if LAFC is winning, Vanni is gonna himself and let his team just do whatever the fuck they can.
Right. I mean, that is exactly what happened last year. In Vancouver, he threatened to murder a referee and sucked Steve Cherundolo's dick after getting knocked out.
Yeah,
it is the exact, because we played them in the first round, right? Like it's the exact same.
Allegedly
situation.
pretended to.
Literally, if he took off all his clothes and just walked into the middle of the field, you'd be like, yeah.
That sounds about right.
Make a snow angel. Well, we shall see. Our theme music is done by the insane team of James Valentine, Nate Walk, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. That's also where we go live after the games. You can review us, you can follow us, and if you made it this far into the episode, please consider becoming a friend of the foot at patreon.com/happyfootsadfoot. We said all this at the top of the show. We also have merch. Any support goes a long way. We love you, and we'll see you in the playoffs, baby. I love you. Bye.
Hope we sweep them like Swiffer wet jets. The jet is wet.
What do you have to say to the good people of Swiffer?
And purple.
That's wet jet, baby.
I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.